in December of 2010, the Guptas launched their newspaper, The New Age. I don't know whether it was the first edition but in December, I don't know if it was December 10 or 8 or thereabout, they published a story which included a statement that Mr. Brian Molefe was going to be the new group CEO for Transnet. This was at a time when Transnet had no group CEO. I think Mr. Wells was acting. And applications had been invited, but Mr. Molefe had not applied for that position. But that's what the New Age said. And a few weeks later, I think in January, the board of Transnet, members of the board were given a chance to nominate candidates for this position. And I think Mr. Sharma nominated Mr. Brian Molefe. And I think Mr. Sharma is alleged to be a Gupta associate. He nominated Mr. Brian Molefe. And Mr. Brian Molefe ended up being Group CEO of Transnet, exactly as the New Age had said in December, even before he applied or was nominated. And then now you have a situation where Mr. Bester tells us that in 2014, Mr. Salim Essa told him that Mr. Brian Molefe was going to be the new boss of Eskom. And indeed, Mr. Brian Molefe did become the new boss of Eskom. But also, you have the meeting between Mr. Jonas and somebody from the Guptas, who I think was Tony Gupta, may have been Tony Gupta, at the Gupta residence on the 23rd of April 2015, at which, according to Mr. Jonas, he was told by the Gupta brother who was there that Mr. Brian Molefe was one of the people who were working with them, and said something like his career is well looked after, or something like that. That was in October 2023. And of course, I think there may be an argument that Mr. Molefe, went to Eskom, resigned, went to Parliament, and went back to Eskom. There seemed to be something quite special, maybe, about Eskom and him. So, but I think the main point, Dr. Ngubane, is here are some of these very strange features where somebody connected with the Guptas, whether it's the New Age or Mr. Salim Essa, seem to say what is going to happen in Mr. Brian Molefe's life and SOE's, and it happens.
Well, Chairperson, my response to this would be, if it was a mediocre person, a non-entity as it were, who is touted to be chairperson of or CEO of PIC, CEO of Transnet, CEO of Eskom, I would say definitely there's something amiss. However, among black people, there are very, very few people with the capabilities of Brian Molefe. And this is a problem, because when you fixate on those few at the top, they seem Well, there was a saying when PE came in that the same scoundrels were getting all the tenders and all the PE partnerships. Now, in our society, there's a very limited amount of people with real skill and capability. So it can be easy to predict someone's trajectory. I'm not saying I was exceptionally gifted, but I went to be, Mr. Mandela asked me to be Minister of Science and Technology in the first government of South Africa. KwaZulu-Natal was in trouble. Dr. Buthelezi asked me to go back to KwaZulu-Natal to be Premier for about 1.5 years. President Beki asked me back to National Ministry of Science and Technology. One night he called me to his house and he said, Ben, the Japanese have said they need an ambassador who understands technology. So I want you to go to Tokyo as ambassador. I come back from there. One morning, about 7, I get a phone call from Mr. Pravin, who was Minister Pravin, saying the cabinet has decided we are going to be chairman of SAPC, and you are also going to be chairman of Land Bank. These two organizations are in trouble. We think you can help them. So I say, Pravin, I mean, he was my friend. We were together at Codesa. I say, Pravin, but this is madness. How can one person take two such organizations? You know, what I'm trying to say is, you get to a situation where the same people circulate, you know, in different organizations. So I am not, in a way, too surprised when I think about it, that a person like Brian Molefe with his capability can be touted for all sorts of positions.
Dr. Ngubane, we will come back to that, because what I was saying to you, that it is either a coincidence or an orchestration, that what is said a year before becomes a reality a year later. Is that a coincidence or an orchestration?
Well, I think the chairperson and myself have been discussing this very issue. So you could call it a coincidence, but as I said, people are earmarked for troublesome sports. So
it's
if people have information, say, from the cabinet or from people high up in government, they could very well predict that Ngubane from here will be there.
Yeah, but that